What's good? What's good? I am in this weird position where using basic logic, I understand the argument for saying a lack of oppression equals an existence of a privilege. So I acknowledge there is in existence some form of white privilege. However, I think if we apply that same logic to factors beyond race, for example, like class, we're then presented with a lack of class. So we'll just say essentially a lack of socioeconomic status, a lack of money, equals oppression, because it is very oppressive in so many ways if you're poor. Psychologically, physiologically, you can't afford to take care of yourself, mentally, physically. In a world with such great, fantastic technologies and almost infinite resources when you factor in solar power and how we could be very, 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 very self-sufficient very quickly if we were to move in that direction. So in a world with so much abundance, there seems to be a large amount of class oppression. And while I acknowledge that there is a pocket of ideology that confirms the existence of white privilege, I think telling a whole bunch of poor white people that they have privilege is not a winning strategy. In the grander scheme of things, which when your life is dominated by oppression, which I can imagine if you're a person of color who has had to live in struggling times with all the obstacles that you've had to, I don't want to project anything onto your experience because you might be a person of color who has not really experienced a lot of negativity around your race. So, I don't want to make you think you have to have this sort of feeling of oppression, but if you do feel that consuming oppression, is it possible that you think other people could also feel forms of consuming oppression that just max out their patience and max out their stress capacity, that make life seem like bullshit? There are some myths maybe that come with the white privilege narrative. I would like to discuss a few. The first one: not all white families are happy, healthy homes. In fact, I would say over the last 50 years, a lot of white families have become increasingly dysfunctional. But again, I think a lot of families in general, a lot of families in America, via so many categories of oppression, have become dysfunctional. We have adults who act like children who have never grown up. Okay, sorry, more things. So, white privilege doesn't come with a guarantee of having health insurance as a child. White privilege doesn't come with a guarantee of having food to put on the table for your child, for your family. White privilege doesn't guarantee a good job. We have seen so many jobs either be automated away or shipped overseas to countries that will pay slave labor wages. Like, look at our fucking phones. I'm pretty sure some child in China probably contributed to multiple components of this phone. Look at the clothes that we wear. We're still enabling oppression. We're just outsourcing it so we don't have to look directly at it. Fucking virtue signaling motherfuckers, excuse my language, but there are a lot of things wrong with a lot of the systems in our world. And by blaming white people, we're not getting anywhere. I acknowledge that having struggled, I grew up in a pretty broken home, and for most of my life, I've been poor or close to poor. So that kind of casts a shade over the lens in which I view the world. But as the great Dr. Viktor Frankl says, we cannot compare suffering. We must look at suffering like a gas that fills the container that it is in. So your suffering is filling your body, your mind, your container. You are a container for suffering, but so am I. I think the single most important thing that will predict the success and healthiness and happiness of a person is their childhood. The family unit has been destroyed. And I say this not as a Christian. I'm not coming at you from a religious lens. I'm coming at you from a psychological perspective, from a philosophical perspective. The growth, the nurturing, the development of young children is essential for the forming of a healthy, conscious community. And yet look at the trends in patterns. Neglect because parents are working multiple jobs, abuse. I had multiple father figures growing up, right? Like, having a father is important for a child. It is extremely important for a child. And if you're a gay couple, not necessarily a father, but having a father figure, a masculine energy, someone to teach the child how to harness their energies within. We all possess masculine and feminine energies, and we need to learn to identify them. We need to learn to transmute them. That's why parents are important. But if your parents have to work multiple jobs just to fucking barely scrape by, not only are you getting neglected, but they're getting neglected. So they're not exactly the happiest of campers when they do have a little bit of free time that they could devote to you. They have to decide, well, do I want to do something to try and make me somewhat happy, or do I want to just continue giving more of myself away to my child, which deserves it? But also parents deserve some happiness too. White privilege doesn't come with a college degree. It doesn't come with a trust fund. I acknowledge systemic racism exists. I acknowledge our systems are broken. But I do not acknowledge that there is a strong unifying voice trying to bring the country together. The movements of the moment are divisive at a time when we need to be uniting. I'm trying to help your cause. All right, I'm done rambling. I'm sorry. Thank you. If you actually listened, thank you very much. Please comment, engage me in conversation. Let's try and have a bigger conversation right now. I would really appreciate it. Thank you.